School and high school, in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Each meeting is divided into three parts. The first part of our meeting is the prepared speech section, followed by a table topic session, and then finally the evaluation section. However, today we have with us Mr. Kin Ng, DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster, who will be giving us a speech craft workshop. So very excited to have you, Kin. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us this workshop. And I would like to take a quick moment to introduce this very esteemed workshop speaker. Kin Ng, DTM, is a leadership and communication coach for students, professionals, and business owners. He was a finalist at the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2021. He believes that words have the power to lift hearts and transform lives. With that said, please help me welcome Kin Ng.
Hi, fantastic morning, everyone. Well, evening where you are. I'm in Singapore, so it's in the morning. I just had my coffee, so my brain's not working right. So if I say something that doesn't make sense, please feel free to stop me, whether it's with the chat or unmute yourself and say, hang on, Kin, that wasn't clear, right? Let me know, because this workshop really is about, it's not about what I say, but it's about what you get. And that's why you're here, isn't it? To get something. Yes? Okay, I see everyone like, not sure whether you're supposed to respond. Let's do that, because the time that we have here, again, is for you. It's not for me. So if there's something you want to get, do let me know. Now, before I share anything, because I have so many ideas about what I want to share in terms of how you can really speak better, win contests, and things like that, but I don't know what you're looking for, and I don't know what areas of speaking you might want to explore. So let's just take a moment, right? Put it in the group chat, what you hope to get from this session, okay? What you hope to get from this session. Or you can unmute and speak, that works as well, since we are a speaking club, right? What do you hope to get out of this session today? Inspiration for contest speech ideas, got that, Caleb? Anyone, anything else? Surely it's just more than inspiration.
Maybe to communicate in different situations and how to communicate.
Communicating in different situations. Could you give me more clarity there? Because there's like millions of situations we could be in, right? I couldn't cover all of them. So any specific situations?
Possibly a situation is like one example could be like standing in front of a big speech and then presenting your speech.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how to communicate more effectively. Okay, in general, got that. I see Sunny's how to prepare a winning speech. Eliana, some good speaking tips in general. Hilary, how to think quickly on the spot. Well, this is like covering all of Toastmasters in 45 minutes. That's a tough sell. Okay, communicating in person and online. Okay, cool. Anything else? How to craft a captivating introduction and hook. Okay. Speech structure. Okay. How to end well. Well, end with a smile. No, of course, it's more complicated than that, right? Okay, I think we've got a good list here. So what I had in mind actually was looking at some advanced speech crafting techniques, but I realized that it might not easily be applicable for all of you. So here's what I'm going to do. All right, I think I am going to work on responding to each of the questions. And then if there are slides, there are slides. If not, I'll use the whiteboard on Zoom and I'll create slides there as well. Is that okay? If it's okay, just give me a thumbs up so I know we're good. Cool. And anything else? If at any point suddenly something comes into your mind and you realize, oh no, I want to know this, but I don't know if I should tell Kin. What if I disrupt this flow? Don't worry about it. I'm used to table topics. You can disrupt my flow. Okay, I'll just come impromptu. We'll work it out. Okay, just chill. All right, so let's begin with Caleb's first idea, right? Inspiration for contest speech ideas. Now, I recognize that sometimes with, particularly with younger speakers, you might not have the wealth of experience of a very long, fruitful life. I mean, not to say that your life isn't already long, but you know what I mean, right? So here's how you can get ideas from speech contests. There's this framework called the 5 Ps, and it's actually the 5 Ps for networking. And I'm going to run through this, and you think about well, by the time I'm done with this, you have at least 15 speech ideas. Sounds good? Yeah, and then it's going to be a first world problem, right? Too many ideas, don't know which one to pick. Your call. So here's what we're going to do, the 5 Ps. I'll type it in the chat. The first P is physical. What can you see? So take a moment wherever you are. Oops, sorry for the typo. Take a moment wherever you are. Look in your room or wherever you might be. What are the things in your room that you might want to talk about? So to give you an example, I happen to have a can of soda here, right? That's one thing. I have, let's see, my mobile phone. I have some vitamins. Well, it's one of those effervescent vitamins, right? So how does that make a speech? Well, maybe we'll start up. Actually, audience, would you like to choose an item from one of those I've mentioned? I'll make a speech out of that. Yeah, Caleb, go for it.
The soda can.
Soda can. All right. So now let's look at the soda can. What's there? It's red, it's light, it's made of aluminum. I like it. It's probably not so good for health, but pretty good for my spirits because I like sugar, right? So now there's so many things I can talk about with regards to this soda can. It's about, for example, I know I like soda. I know it's not good for my health. And then the general theme here could be, have you ever done something you shouldn't have just because you felt like it? Sounds like a contest speech there already, right? Yeah. So this is how you can get ideas from the physical things around you. If you wanted me to make a speech out of vitamins, I'll talk about how, let's see, it's about the nutrition that you get, right? Sometimes what you're doing is not enough. Maybe I'll talk about food. I'll talk about, getting a cold all the time, especially during flu season, right? And sometimes you just need supplements. Well, is your life going the way you want it to? Are you missing some vitamins in your life? Well, my vitamin is vitamin mom. Ever since my mom passed away 6 years ago, I haven't felt love, unconditional, my best friend, blah, 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 blah. You get it. There's going to be a speech there, right? So are we good with the first P, physical? Are there 3 items around you that you think you might want to talk about? Now, if you're thinking, hang on, but how did you jump into those things just by looking at a soda can? Like, what the, Well, that comes from experience. And what you want to do here is to link, right, each item with a general idea or a general message about life, right? If I wanted to link the soda can to health, I could link it to, what was that again? Happiness, regret. What else can we link this to? Right? Let's use the chat and see how many things we can link this soda can to. We're going to stretch your minds here so we can help you start to link things to ideas. All right? I could link the soda can to love. Every time I was sad, my mom would bring me this can of soda and I would feel so loved. So every time I drink soda, I feel love. And then my speech could be about love, right? Yeah, the story of how it's created. It could be how it looks. What else can we link this to? Yeah, health. Thank you, Michelle. Cool. Anything else or anyone else? What else can we link a soda can to? Economics. Wow, okay. Not quite your typical speech contest speech because you want it to move the emotions, and economics tends to be more headspace. Any more? Okay, let's just do one more and we'll move to the next P. All right. What else can we link a soda can or a soda to? Ooh, I just thought of one. It's like we judge the soda can based on its packaging, right? You don't know what it tastes like. You just see red. Ooh, I like red. I'm going to try this soda. Ever felt that? Has someone ever judged you by your cover? Why people like it even though it hurts your mouth? Ooh, interesting topic, Eliana. Yeah, cool. So we've got 4 topics here just from one soda can, right? You've got 3 items in your room you could look at. You can link them all, or you can just choose one that you like. Okay, shall we move on to the next P? Okay, and the next P after physical is...
I said off.
Oh, hi, Ria. Yeah, did you have a question? All right, I'll just carry on. Okay, so the next P is profession. So what do you do? Now, I recognize all of you probably are students. I don't think you're full-time employees somewhere, unless you count the home as a workplace, but that's a different story for another time. So what do you do as a student? What do you study? Do you have any extracurricular activities? Like anyone here does taekwondo, perhaps? You might not like it, but it's something you got to do. All right, you can talk about that. So in your life, let's say maybe you go for art class, right? So what is it about art? What do you like about it? What happened there? Is there someone in your art class that, really, really gets on your nerves? Or was there some inspiring thing that your art teacher said? Art is not about what you see. It's about how it makes you feel. Or something, transcendent, right? And you can use that quote as a starting point to think about an idea that you want to leave. Okay, I'm going to move on because, well, not too much to talk about here. The next one is pleasure. What do you like? Or if you prefer the word, passion. What do you like doing? So, for example, I spend an inordinate amount of time watching anime, right? I've watched most of the major animes. I finished Naruto a couple years ago. In fact, for my wedding, I dressed up as Naruto. So I'm a real anime fan. I'm an otaku, right? And I could talk about anime day in, day out. And of course, there's lessons in anime and all of that. Now, what else do I like? I like computer games. I know I'm such a bad influence on, the youth of today. Watching TV, playing anime. Watching anime and playing Dota 2. Right, but my passion is in games. Some of my other passions, I like hiking. I like traveling. I like reading a good book. So what about these passions? What can you talk about in these passions? So for example, reading, it sounds kind of like boring, right? Yeah, it's just picking up a book and reading. What's there to talk about? I could talk about how I get lost in a world created by words. Right? I remember reading Harry Potter once. I think it was what was the fourth book called? Oh dear, I don't remember. Goblet of Fire. That's right. And so I picked up the Goblet of Fire and I read it from cover to cover. It took me 8 hours. I forgot to eat. I forgot to sleep. The sun went down. I didn't even notice. And as I was getting lost in the characters, I was getting lost in the moment Hermione walks down the stairs in her Yule Ball gown and everyone turns to look at her. And it made me feel young again. Oh, well, actually, I was young when I read it, but that's not the point. So you can talk about scenes from the book and the things it made you feel. And if I wanted to make this a contest-winning speech, I'd add a twist. So I talk about this story where I was reading a book, I got lost. I remember this moment where this was happening. And then at the end of it, when the book finished, I felt dissatisfied. I felt dissatisfied because, well, that book specifically, I actually felt dissatisfied because I felt that Hermione is such a nice person, but she's so misunderstood. And then I can ask the audience, have you ever felt misunderstood? And once there's a topic you can relate to the audience, you can make the rest of the speech based on that. So you can find many topics in the things that you've read or the things that you like to link up. I like hiking. I can talk about how I scaled Mount Kinabalu, which is the highest mountain in Southeast Asia. I've done it twice because apparently once is not enough. But climbing up there, it looks beautiful, but it's weird. The higher you climb, the less plants you see. And up to a certain point, there's no more plants. It's what we call a dead zone. And all that's left is rock. And I felt like I was walking on the moon, surrounded by clouds. I couldn't see the ground below me. And every step was painful, laborious, because there's not enough oxygen. Every step I took, I had to take 4 breaths. One more step. And another step. And then you can ask the audience, is life feeling a little difficult right now? Do you have are you so overwhelmed by studies and work that you forget to catch your breath? Right? And you can say, yeah, so life is like climbing a mountain. You're going to find some challenges in your way. The question is, do you want to reach the top or are you going to give up and back down? Well, I spent money flying there. I might as well reach the top. And so I went at it 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And finally, I reached the top. And the moment I reached the summit, all that weight in my legs disappeared because all I could see in front of me was the ground below me, clouds above me, and some golden rays of sun peeking above the clouds, and it just shone straight in my face. And that sunrise took my breath away. It was beautiful. And that's what success feels like when you've set a goal, a tough goal, an impossible goal, but through sheer will and effort, you get there. That's just amazing. So are you feeling stuck right now? Is it tiring moving forward? Think about that goal and what it's going to do for you, how it's going to feel, what it'll mean. Wouldn't you feel good about yourself? So don't give up, my friends. Step by step, even if you need 4 breaths with every step you take, right? So lots of stories from the passions that you have. So think about how you can link one of those meanings, right? Universal meanings, I like to call them. Because it's universal, no matter which country, where you're from, how old you are, we all have an idea of what achievement is. We all know the challenges of overcoming obstacles, right? So these are universal themes: love, regret, support, any of these things, right? Feel free to use those. So anyway, passion. Next P, can we move on? Any questions at this part? Because I know your faces don't show too much, but in your minds it's like, it's overdrive right now. So if you want to let off some of that steam, ask a question, please do so anytime. All right? Okay, I'll just move on. 4th P, it's the opposite of pleasure, which is pain. Yeah, nothing connects people like pain. Now, I don't know if, well, I'm from Singapore, and I don't know if this is a Singapore thing, but they say that Singaporeans have 3 national pastimes: queuing up in line, shopping, and complaining, right? And we like complaining so much because when we, well, from a psychological perspective, when we complain and our friends are like, oh, you poor thing. Yeah, he shouldn't have done that, blah, blah. And, someone takes your side, you feel validated, right? And you feel heard. And so that's one of the reasons why people complain. But what pain really does, if you think about it, is it helps people connect. So maybe I'll share a story to illustrate that, right? I remember when I was 15. Sorry, no, I take that back. I was 13 and I was in German class. Now, I was late for class. I was running. It was a hot day and I finally got into class. I was like, oh, sorry, teacher, I'm late. I take my seat. Whoop, and then I lean back to catch my breath. And whoop, I hit the pencil case behind me. It falls on the ground. Oh, no. I bend down to help my classmate pick up a pencil case. And as I pick up her pens, she picks up her pens. My eyes meet her eyes under the table. And it was love at first sight. She was so cute. She really was. She was your typical girl next door with that genuine smile. Somehow it reminded me of a puppy. That kind of genuine smile. And as I picked all her pens, put it in a pencil case, put it on her desk, I sat and looked in front, trying to listen to the teacher, but all I could hear was my heart going, boom, 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 boom. Is she the one? And later that break, I went to buy ice cream and I saw her eating the same ice cream. We have similar tastes. This must be a match made in heaven. And so week after week, this happened. We'd have our ice cream. And one day I finally mustered up the courage. And I went to her and asked her, hey, I really like you. Will you be my girlfriend? She gave me this odd look. Like, oh, you're just a brother to me. I don't want to risk anything happening in this relationship. And what's worse, she felt that I was like her little brother because I was shorter than her. And my voice was kind of like this because puberty went for all my classmates but me, right? Puberty forgot about me and I felt so lousy. I didn't know what to say. What do you say after you've been rejected? Okay. And for the rest of the week, all I could think about was how stupid I was, what I shouldn't have done, how I've ruined this friendship and any possibility whatsoever. Have you ever felt that you were not good enough? Now, I'm sure all of you have, right? At some point in your life. Maybe it was a failed result in school. Maybe it was talking to the person you like. But could you relate to me as a person? Or could you relate to some of these emotions? Right? I mean, if you can, great. If you haven't, that's okay. You'll find someone to fall in love with, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, so that's how pain can relate, because if we've all felt that same pain and you can be authentic about it, the audience tends to relate to you and they want you to win. That's just how human psychology works. Okay, so what are some of the pains in your life? Can you think about 3 pains that you've experienced? Was it betrayal from friends? Was it not performing up to expectations? Was it a fall, that caused you some real physical pain? Was it being punched in school? Bullying? Evil siblings? Family trouble? Everyone's got some kind of pain. So you can think about 3 instances where you felt some pain. You don't have to share it here, right? Just keep your ideas. Any questions on pain? No. Okay, I'll move on. By the way, if your story is about, or if your speech is about pain, remember to give the audience some way to take away the pain. Because you don't really want to leave the audience crying at the end of 7 minutes. You can leave them crying in the middle of it, but make sure you turn those cries into smiles by the end of it. Okay, because I think these days everyone's too stressed out anyway. So give us the pain, let us feel something, but make sure you turn it into something hopeful, whether it's success now or whether it's you've become stronger, greater, you now can make people smile, anything like that. Right? Okay, and let's move to the last P, which is philosophy, right? Ideas, values, what really matters. So, for example, a philosophical question could be, let's see, do you believe in, oh, hang on, what's a good one? Well, thank you for your patience. I recognize that thinking about topics for adolescents is a little bit different from topics for adults. Okay, but philosophy. Is it better to work hard or work smart? Right? Is honesty always the best policy? Right? Well, philosophical questions you could debate all the way, but at least in your international speech, come up with one of these topics and take a side. Right? So, for example, if we're using, is honesty the best policy? Now, I could start the speech with something like this. Oh, sorry, restart. I could start a speech like this. Honey, do I look good in this dress? Looking at my wife and that dress, a hideous green and purple dress with gold and silver sparkles. It was a mess. And what's worse, it was highlighting all the wrong places. Now, my wife, she's pretty, but that dress, no, definitely not. But looking at her hopeful face, her big round eyes, looking for affirmation, what should I say? Should I lie and say yes? Should I avoid the question? Should I say no and suffer her wrath and maybe sleep on the couch tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, what would you do? Right? So I could start there, and it brings in the idea of, is honesty the best policy? And then I'll say, yeah, I was honest, and then I suffered for it. So I realized maybe I should lie. And then maybe I'll tell another story about where my lie caused real pain that I really regret. And then I can conclude with, so should we lie? If you have to live a life where telling lies is part of it every day, maybe you should examine your life choices, because there's so much more power in the truth. And if people can't hear the truth, that's their own learning journey. Right? Just as I learned to tell the truth. So my friends, was this speech good? Don't lie. Right? So you see how the speech moves from philosophy. So when you have that overarching idea, you can craft a speech that way. Okay, I recognize I've spent about 25 minutes on the 5 P. So it's, what was it? First P is physical. And then we go to profession, like what you do. We go to pleasure, pain, and philosophy. That's the 5 Ps. Oh, so many things to cover. So, Caleb, I hope you've got a lot more inspiration for contest ideas. I think I've given you more than what you thought you were going to get, right? So, can we move on to how to prepare a winning speech? Great. Okay, so in terms of preparing a winning speech, very often you've got a good story, but every speech needs to come with a structure, because what structures do is it supports your speech. Now, just give me a thumbs up if you can see the whiteboard. I want to make sure that everyone can see the whiteboard. Okay, cool. All right, so what does the structure of a speech look like? I know everyone always says body. Oh, sorry. It's always intro, body, conclusion, right? Yeah, so this is kind of straightforward. Intro, body, conclusion. Everyone knows that. But how do you want to structure a speech in a way that, oh, I see people drawing stuff. Okay, continue drawing, but I'm just going to go on with the notes, all right? So what should be an introduction? There's two main points I want to highlight. The first one is the hook. And the second is WIIFM, or what's in it for me? Right? Maybe I'll type it out. What's in it for me? Okay. So why is the what's in it for me important? I'll start with that. It's because the what's in it for me is about how you relate your topic to your audience, or the judge for that matter. I don't know if you've ever heard speeches that go something like this. Good morning, Mr. Toastmasters, or good evening, Mr. Toastmaster. Today I'm going to talk about my trip to South America. So last week I went to South America and I saw the llamas and I saw the mountains and I saw a lot of people and I did this and I did that. And at the end of the day, it was really good. So all of you consider a trip to South America. Thank you. And I know some of you are too kind to admit, but you might think, okay, so are you done bragging? Right? Now, I'm sure that's not the point of the speech. But if you find that your speech doesn't particularly have value, why should your audience listen? So the what's in it for me is really what's in it for the audience, because that's what they're going to be thinking. And what you can do is, if you can introduce this in 45 seconds, your speech takes relevance. Let me give you an example. And this was an example given by world champion of public speaking, Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi, right, from 2014. So he says you can even start the speech with okay, going back to the hook, right, something that grabs attention. So you can start a speech with even a nursery rhyme. For example, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. My friends, have you ever fallen in life so bad you felt you couldn't be put together again? And you jump into a story where you fell. Or maybe twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. My friends, have you ever wished you were a star? When I was young, I always wanted to be a YouTuber, blah, blah, right? So you see how that hook, it's something that's relatable. It's something that we can remember. Or some people use questions in a hook. Well, as you see, you've seen me do that question, right? So you can put question, you could put a quote. What else could you do in a hook? Statistics. So for statistics, right? Let me just poll the audience. Good evening, my friends. How many of you think health is more important, is the most important thing in life? Health. None? How many of you think wealth is the most important thing in life? None? Well, how many of you think love is the most important thing in life? According to the American Bureau of Statistics, right, and then you go into something there, it says, apparently the biggest concern among Americans today is health. And it's 90% of Americans are concerned about this. And it makes sense, because even if no one loves you right now, right, you've got no money, as long as you're healthy, you can always get something done. And you do your speech about health. Although I would say that's not the best topic for an international speech contest. Okay, so other statistics you can use. Let's see, what's an interesting one? In Singapore, by the age of 12, 95% of students wear glasses. But 60 years ago, only 5% of 12-year-olds wore glasses. What's happening to our youth? Right, so that's an interesting statistic. Okay. Any other questions about the introduction? No? Okay, cool. All right, let's make this relevant to the audience. Okay, body. So what's in the body? Ideally, you want to tell a story. Why? Because stories involve emotions. Now, I recognize that in school or in writing, you might have learned how to write a persuasive essay or an argumentative essay. Sometimes they call it that. And you could. But you find that the speeches that tend to win happen to be the one that moves the emotions. So I don't think there would be a point. Well, let me rephrase that. You could do a speech about the importance of exercise, but unless you really evoke some strong emotions from your audience, it's unlikely that you're going to win. So how do you create strong emotions? Ideally, use a story. Why? Because since we learn, even before we learn how to write, people could speak. And so stories were a very good way to impart knowledge from previous generations to future generations, right? Through speaking. And we learn and remember these things from stories. As I understand, all of you are in your teens somewhere. When was the last time you heard the story of the three little pigs? I'm guessing at least 5 years ago. And you still remember it, right? So stories are sticky. They make you remember. So how do you craft a story? Well, I like to use this structure, right? Start with the situation. What happened? What's the problem? Or what's the challenge? Right? Who's involved? So tell us about the situation. And then you go into the T. Now, this T is really important, especially from my observation. In Singapore, we have a lot of content, but we never talk about the T, and that's the thoughts and feelings. And this is where people relate. So if you don't talk about the thoughts and feelings that you were dealing with in your situation, people aren't going to relate. Like earlier, I talked about the story about German class with that girl, right? Could you get a sense of my thoughts and feelings? Right? We had, oh, she's having the same ice cream. She must be the one for me. Right? So share some of these thoughts and feelings because your audience will be thinking about those same thoughts and feelings. And if the words you chose happen to be exactly what your audience thinks, boom, you score there. You immediately relate on an emotional level. Right? So tell us, what was the thought process? What did you do? Why did you feel that you couldn't? Or, why were you in pain? What did you feel like doing? What did you hope to do? And after you deal with the thoughts and feelings, you go into the O. Observations and actions. So was there a turning point? What did you see? What did you do? Did some guru give you some life-changing advice? So maybe after that girl rejected me, I went to my teacher. Teacher, I'm sad. But it's a stupid reason. My teacher says, what, kid? Why are you sad? I like this girl, but she doesn't like me. And my teacher said, well, Ken, you're a likable kid, but lately I see you've been trying so hard to make people like you. And that's not how it works. The trick to making people like you is not to do things that will make them like you. It's to be yourself. And then if they like you, they do. And there's going to be people who don't, and that's fine. You cannot expect 7 billion people in this world, all of them to like you, right? Even Mother Teresa had enemies. Do you think you're better than Mother Teresa? No. So is it okay if some people don't like you? Okay. And so instead of working on making people like me, I started working on myself. Did the things I liked, had fun whenever I could, told jokes because I enjoyed it, not because I had to make people laugh. And before I knew it, I was surrounded by friends. And some girls started to like me too. Ooh. Right? So what did you see? What did you do? And of course, the result. What happened at the end? You have to end the story with a result. If your speech ends without the result, then you're like, so what's the learning point? Which is the last bit. And that's the message, the take home for your audience. And then you conclude. There was a question earlier as well, right? How to end off. You want to inspire your audience. Ideally, if you can. If you don't know how to inspire your audience, let them know that work with some of these topics, right? It's love, it's hope, it's a vision of success. As long as it's anything like that, you'll be fine. By the way, since all of you are in Gavel Club, you know what table topics is, right? I just saw this question on how to do a speech impromptu. For me, I use the STORY, literally, all the time. And you might find, hang on, but what if it's a longer story? If you need to, you can make it a story. Because after you had some actions, you had new results, and then you had some thoughts, and you had some new results, and you had some thoughts, and you had some new results, right? So you kind of go into the so that you can deal with the feelings and the actions and the feelings and the actions until you come to a conclusion, all right? Okay, hang on. Let me deal with that question first. So I saw someone asked me, how can I prepare a speech last minute? Well, once again, consider that when you have a template, you can prepare the speech in 5 minutes. Literally. The quickest way to do it is to start with your learning. So what do you want the audience to take home? So you know what? In this next 5 minutes, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to craft a speech. Is that okay? Just to show you how it's done, right? So maybe let's say my learning, what I want the audience to know is love yourself. Okay? So in terms of love yourself, I'll start to think about the story. Was there a situation where I felt I didn't love myself? Right? What was the situation? Okay, I remember way back then, right? Multiple rejections. I remember, well, doing poorly in school. Thoughts and feelings? I felt lousy. I felt unworthy. What happened? Mom, well, okay, sorry, that's British mom. Mom told me, I love you no matter what. Okay, I'll just simplify this. Result, I care less about, let's see, the result. I care about how I feel about myself. Stop comparing, right? I stopped comparing myself to others. And then what did I learn? I love myself because I can do more. Something like that. Now I need to think about the hook, right? So maybe I'll start with a small story or anecdote. So let's see. Maybe I'll start with, I liked girl, asked her out, got rejected. And then I could start with a question back, right? So have you ever felt that you were not good enough? Right? So do you see how the speech is now there? Hey, less than 5 minutes. And then how do you conclude? Doesn't matter where you are now. Love yourself because people, people may get upset sometimes, something like that. You can, you have the power, potential to be great. There. That's a speech, and you just table topic based on this structure. Not difficult, right? Okay, so add your own stuff in there. Now I recognize I've only got 5 minutes left. Oh, that took so long. But I think maybe this was what you needed to hear. You know, actually, I had planned to share this speech by, what's his name? Dhananjaya, for everyone to watch. And then we'll pick apart some of the good things or some of the learning points. But I'm just going to put this here, right? That's that speech. And if you want some deeper analysis, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to include this file here that someone has done about Dhananjaya. Hang on, let me find it. Okay, speech breakdown. So someone very kindly did a speech breakdown about Dhananjaya's speech. And it, you know what? Why don't I share that? Can I stop the share? Is anyone, if you want to take your screenshot or anything like that of this framework, feel free to do it. All right. I'll just give you 10 seconds to do that. And then I want to share a little bit about that speech breakdown. Caleb, can I proceed? Okay, so I'm going to change share. Let's see, where is this screen? Right, so this is the speech breakdown. I think I've just sent it in the chat, right? Oh, hang on, is this the right window? Yeah, there you go. So let's take a look. Okay, so for this speech breakdown, this is the transcript of the speech, and you can see how it is written. And you find that when we write, we tend to write long sentences and we connect ideas through long sentences. But you find that when you speak, the sentences have to be a little bit shorter. For example, now I've seen my mama cry before, full stop. Mothers cry 3 types of tears, full stop. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, son, I want you to be a better man. Right? That's a situation right there in the story, right? Where he was behind bars. So anyway, at the end of this, you can see how this person is highlighted. Word count, speech length, title, color key with analysis, foundational phrase. So the concept behind the foundational phrase, I mean, humor is humor, right? People like laughing. What's a foundational phrase? It's a phrase that you repeat in your speech. And if you repeat it a couple of times, it becomes like a sound bite. It's kind of like how I think it was 8 years ago. Everyone heard this sound bite. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Or we're going to make America great again, which is a very good soundbite, by the way. No comments about the people involved, but it's a very good soundbite and it sticks. So if you think about that 7 minutes, what are you going to repeat in a way that will stick to the audience and leave them remembering that soundbite? Okay, so that's a foundational phrase. Okay, use of I, you, me, addressing the audience, descriptions. Why do you need descriptive physical characteristics? Because most people happen to be visual. So instead of saying, this is my friend Stacy, all right? She was average height, blonde hair, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's one way to describe Stacy. Another way could say, you could say, Stacy looked like a Powerpuff Girl, right? And if you watch, oh, sorry, is that not your time? Hang on. Okay, Stacy looks like Dora the Explorer. Is that more your time? I don't know. I haven't watched anything on well, okay, anime. Stacy is like Nezuko from, okay, but if it's not well known enough, maybe it's not a good reference, right? But if you can compare to a character that is well known and well loved, that would be very helpful. Or maybe I say, my teacher, let's see, my teacher, Mr. Caleb, he was smooth. He was like an Asian James Bond with white hair. Right? And immediately, ooh, you get this whole sense of what Mr. Caleb is like. Okay? So use famous characters to compare the physical descriptions. And if you want to, you could talk about things like, he had long, white, flowy hair. And it was smooth. Kind of like an elf. Sort of like Legolas's hair, right? And you get this very clear visual of what it's like. So add more of these descriptions so that people can literally see what the person is like. Okay, compare it to people or things that's easy to understand. Callbacks, this is creating a loop, right? So he starts the speech with grabbing the rose out of throwing the rose into a trash can. He ends the speech grabbing a rose back out of the trash can. So it feels very complete, like you've come full circle. That's one good way to show growth. Okay, rule of 3, I'm sure you know this. Questions to the audience. right? To have them relate to what you want to say. Stories, vocal variety, right? So before your contest, I recommend that you watch the speech once or twice. You can read some of the analysis here to figure out how he did what he did. Of course, if you like the speech, you can see some of the devices that he uses, okay? Now, I recognize we're actually out of time. Caleb, do we have 5 minutes more?
Sure, 5 minutes, and then we can take some questions from the floor.
Okay, sounds great. So I'll stop it there since I've sent it to you already. Feel free to work on that on your own. I want to deal with, let's see, good speaking tips. Okay, with regards to speaking, one of the things I've realized is everyone has an accent. We do. And especially when we're younger, we think really quickly because our brains are so alive. You might not feel that way after studying, but the fact is your brains are alive, you speak fast. But when you speak quickly, it's hard for people to get the emotions of things. So to give you an example, if I were to talk about a situation like this, where I was at the beach and then my mom fell down I sent her to the hospital, and at the hospital, well, mom never woke up. And that day at a funeral, everyone was sad. You don't feel sad at all because you're saying it so quickly, right? So allow yourself to pause and say, mom fell. Now, she was 65, too young for cancer, but cancer came anyway. And before I knew it, one day mom never woke up. At a funeral, everyone was talking about how lovely she was, how free-spirited she was, how much of a positive influence she was. And then her friends told me a side of mom I never saw. They told me that mom felt lonely, lost, and worried. She didn't know what to expect next, but mom never told me because she didn't want to worry her son. But they told me one more thing, that mom was proudest when she was talking about her moments at the beach with me. Right? When you go slow, you allow the emotions to sink in. By the way, true story, that actually happened. My mom was sick. I brought her to the beach. Eventually, yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's my point, right? When we think about how you speak, allow yourself to slow down, allow yourself to breathe so that your voice has more volume. You can think about your gestures in a way that's more, how should I say, natural. So what do I mean by natural gestures? So as I'm speaking, I can move my hands like this, which is kind of natural, sort of, but you don't want to have too much of the acting everything out with your hands. For example, so we ran down the spiral staircase and I was huffing and puffing. I mean, this is not storytelling time for, 5-year-old kids. So don't overdo it. Be as natural as you can. Don't be afraid to let your body show those emotions. Don't be afraid to feel the emotions as you're talking about it. I know you might be memorizing a script, but if you memorize a script, there's usually no feelings in it. See if you can internalize that script. Feel the words you're talking about. Then that will help you figure out whether you say it quicker or slower, the tone you deliver it with, the intensity that you push through with those words. And you find vocal variety comes automatically. Your body language comes automatically as well. Okay, let's see. How to think quickly on the spot. Hillary, I would say if it's for table topics, use a structure. Story is a very good structure for that. Another structure you can use is the scales. Oh, hang on. Where's the whiteboard? I've been using Zoom for 5 years and it still bothers me. Okay. Okay. Whiteboard load. Okay, so one of the favorite things I like to do is the scales, but my drawing is not good, so I'll just do this. So what you say is on one hand and on the other hand. So this is one very quick way to think quickly, right? Maybe the question is something like, let's see. There's no point working hard if you know how to work smart. Maybe that's a table topic. How do you think quickly? So you say, on one hand, working hard is really important because blah, 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 blah. On the other hand, working smart is really important because blah, 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 blah. And then you conclude. So this is really good for table topics, especially if you haven't decided. Like, which one is better? Right? Maybe the question, yeah, which one was it? We talked about honesty, right? Is it better to be honest is it good to be honest all the time? You can say, well, if I were honest all the time, on one hand, but if I could tell lies, So in summary, and then you come to a conclusion there. So this is one very good structure that helps you think quickly, and it helps you delay your answer, especially if you're not sure. Okay. Another one that I really like to use, and this is maybe the foundation of all quick thinking. You start with your point. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your point? You give the reason why you feel that way. You give an elaboration, maybe with an example or a story, and then you conclude with your point. So maybe the table topic is Gandhi's quote, be the change you want to see in the world. Point. I absolutely agree that we have to be the change we want to see in the world. Why? Because if I don't do it, I cannot expect others to do it. And then I'll tell the story about how, the school is always full of litter and it bothers me. And so I tried asking other people to pick up the trash, and they said, you don't pick up your trash, why should I pick mine up? So I thought, fine. So I started picking up trash, and when people asked me, why are you picking up the trash? I said, if I don't do it, who will? And my friends thought, you're right. Let's start picking up trash. And soon we started forming a trash picking community, and we started clearing the trash. And by the end of a month, the school was clean, and we created this habit of cleaning up after ourselves. Friends, my point is this. There may be so many ideals, so many things we think should be done. But if you don't start with yourself, you cannot expect others to do it. Is there some change you want to see in your life, my friends? Be that change you want to see in the world. Ta-da! Okay? So that's how you use the PREP. I think just these two structures, Hillary, I hope that helps. Communicating in person and online. If you're online for the contest, make sure you're far back enough for your hands to be seen. Because, Caleb, in fact, your camera now is just about perfect. Just a small space above your head is good enough. Because you have enough space for your hands, you have enough space to move left and right. If you want to add a bit more of your legs, that's okay. But try not to make the mistake online of just speaking like this, because after a while, looking at a talking head is kind of boring. And worse, if you're not looking at the camera and you're looking at your script, this is just kind of boring after 5 minutes. In fact, after 30 seconds, right? Okay, so that's for communicating online. In person, yep, use your body, all of that. I'm not going to spend too much time there. Crafting a captivating introduction and hook from Claire. I don't know if we've covered that. Claire, could you give me a thumbs up if you felt that or say something if we've covered that? If not, I can spend a bit more time on that. I don't know. Claire, was there a thumbs up? I'm sharing the whiteboard so I cannot see. Hey, let me stop the share.
Wait,
Are we okay? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think you definitely covered a lot of the point. Maybe could you elaborate, like, what are some good types of strategies for the intro? Like maybe starting off with a story. Like I know you mentioned like statistics and stuff. Maybe give some like examples, like maybe starting off with a story or something like that.
Okay, with a story. Okay. How about this? So the speech that got me through the semifinals of the World Championships, I started with a story. It started something like this. Now it's been 4 years, so pardon me if I've forgotten a little bit of it. Okay, starts like this. The wind was roaring, the waves were crashing, lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rumbled at the beach. As the bravest 5-year-old there, guess what I did? Mommy! Mom looked at me. My pants were wet, and it wasn't raining yet. Mom said, hold my hand. I'm with you. Grabbing onto Mom's hand, we ran, and whoosh, the rain started pouring. The lightning kept flashing, the thunder kept rumbling. But I felt safe. I was holding those magic hands. Ladies and gentlemen, and friends with dry pants, have you felt the touch of those magic hands? They lift you when you're low, hold you when you're lonely, and guide you when you're lost. I remember the touch of Mom's hands. Okay, something like that, right? So you got the story. And you know it's going to be about those hands because I'm spending a lot of time. I asked you the question, have you felt the magic of a living hand? And later I talk about other stories where I talk about the power of those hands, right? So I don't know if that was captivating enough for you, but generally if you start with a little bit of action, yeah, that's one of the things that gets your audience's attention. Okay? We good? Okay, Janya, I saw your question on speech structure. I don't know. Was that enough of a structure? Okay, by the way, you could have more complex structures, but I would advise against complexity. And the reason for that is most people these days don't listen very well. Not saying all of you, but a lot of people don't listen very well. And that's the reason why there's so much conflict, because people have stopped listening to each other. So don't make it difficult for them to hear your flow of thought. Make it as simple as you can. In fact, when I paid my coach, who was a former world champion of public speaking as well, he said, try to limit or minimize the number of 3-syllabled words you have. Make it 1 or 2 syllables as far as you can. So I said, why? Because it's easier to understand, it's easier to think, and it's easier to feel when it's easy to understand. That's it. So instead of using the word inspiration, which is 4 syllables, could you say inspired, which is 3? Right? Shorten as much as you can. Be brief. Don't beat around the bush. You can say things directly. And sometimes, even better, if you want to talk about thoughts and feelings, you don't always have to say it. You can show it. It's one thing for me to say, when my girlfriend dumped me, I was so sad. I didn't want to get out of bed. I couldn't get up. I mean, you could say all that, or you could do the, I never felt so useless in my life. The next day, I couldn't see the sun. It rose, yes, but I couldn't feel it in my heart. All right? I don't have to say how I'm feeling, but you can get a sense of how I'm feeling based on how I'm talking about it, right? So these are some other ways to talk about feelings, okay? Let's see. Captivating intro, hook, structure, how to end well. We talked about it, Caleb, which is, well, love, hope, possibility, right? If you have a joke or humor, good. If you can tie it back to a situation where you started the speech with, great. So maybe with that introduction I gave earlier, I might end the speech with something like, last week, I was at the beach with my daughter. The wind was roaring, the waves were crashing, lightning flashed across the sky. And my daughter started to cry. So I told her, sweetie, come hold daddy's hand. Grabbing onto my hand, the rain started pouring, the lightning kept flashing, the thunder kept rumbling. But my baby girl was smiling because now she's got daddy's magic hands. Right? So it seems to like come full circle. So that's one of the way you can do that. Or it's what we call a callback. Okay. I think that's all the time we have, and that's all the questions answered. Yeah. Anyone, any questions? Let's do that quick Q&A and we can move on with the program. Yeah, go for it.
I just had one question. What is the best way to control your nervousness?
Okay, great question, Caleb. So here's the thing. I have been speaking in Toastmasters for the last 12 years. I've spoken on the world stage. I still feel nervous. All right. So if me, a professional trainer and speaker, still feels nervous, it's fine for all of you as well, as young Gavaliers to feel nervous, and it's okay. The question is, what do you do with that nervousness? So for me, before every important speech, I have a ritual that I do, and that ritual helps me get into the right space for contesting, right? So what I tend to do is, when I know it's right before my speech, I will show up at the contest venue, I will go to the washroom, I will vomit. Bleh. Yeah, I still vomit. So whatever, anything that's uncomfortable, all the butterflies, bleh, that's all out. And then I tell myself, now I've puked out all the bad stuff. Whatever is left here is the good stuff. Okay. And then what I do after that, I use the washroom, empty whatever I need to empty, right? And then I pray. to whatever you believe in, whoever you believe in. If you believe in, the flying spaghetti monster, go for it, right? And when I pray, I give up that result. I give up the need to win. And I know that, yes, we're in a contest because we want to win, right? That trophy looks kind of shiny, or for whatever reason you want to win. But at the end of the day, it's not about the trophies. Because if you can get the trophy, but no one remembers your speech and your speech has no impact whatsoever, is that trophy worth anything? I would rather you think about how could you focus your speech on impacting the audience. So when I'm on stage, I never think about, oh, did I shave my nose hair? I didn't shave today, but what would they think of me? Oh no, my glasses look ugly. There's some scratches there. I forgot to bring my tie. Irrelevant. You think your audience cares whether you wear a tie or not? No, they care about how you're going to make that 7 minutes count for them. So be there for them. Have that conversation with them, just as I'm having this conversation with you. It's about what you're going to get. So as I'm speaking this way, do you feel connected to me? Could you speak in this way as well in your contest speech? Think about it as a conversation, right? It's a conversation where you're trying to connect with your audience. So I give up the need to win. I focus on my audience getting that message. That's all I have, right? And whatever the result, the question is, did you do your best? If you did, fine. And by the way, here's a secret. Everyone is always doing their best. You don't believe me? Here's what I want you to do, okay? Using the chat, I'm going to give you option A and B. Imagine you're walking along the beach. On one side, you see a $50 note on the floor. On the other side, you see a $100 note on the floor. Which one do you grab? Just type it in the chat right now. 50 or 100? I see 100. 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 Really? No one's grabbing the 50? Okay, now my question to you is, why didn't you grab both? It's at the beach. But you grabbed the 100 because that's the best you could have done at that point in time, right? So you're always going to do the best you can at any point in time. So don't beat yourself up for it, okay? If your head went blank, that's the best you could have done at the time. Don't hate yourself for it. Just accept that, well, anyway, just try and move into a segue for your speech. Okay, don't beat yourself up. There's no point. You just bruise yourself. It doesn't help. Give yourself some grace and know that, well, it happened. What can I learn from it? All right, let's make the next one better. Okay. I hope that worked out for you. I see Ethan's hand.
I had a question specifically about how to, if your speech requires empathy, how to get that across effectively, especially in an online environment where all you see is a two-dimensional image of somebody.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't quite get it.
There's like some speeches require empathy to be shown from the speaker. So how do you do that effectively, especially if you're looking at a two-dimensional image of somebody in an online meeting like this?
Okay, so the difference between online and live is that when you're online, you have to be just a little bit more exaggerated, right? So what does empathy look like? It's easy to say, oh, if you're trying to show empathy, your eyes have to be soft and, your mouth has to be even. But, how are you going to manufacture that? It would be a lot easier for you to actually try to feel those feelings. Does that make sense? So, for example, how about this? So, Ethan, maybe you're asking that question because you find it hard to express yourself emotionally. And I know it's challenging. I know it's difficult and it's annoying. It's painful even if you're misunderstood, because what you're saying or what you want them to hear is not what they're hearing. It's challenging. I get that. Now, as I'm saying this, can you feel that I'm empathizing with you? Yeah, because I really am. So when you do that, you allow yourself to feel. It tends to come out in the combination of body and voice and the choice of words. All of that is how we communicate. So don't focus solely on the words, because the manner in which you communicate is going to land on the audience. So let them see your eyes as far as you can. Look at the camera. If you don't get used to, if you're not used to it, take a picture of your idol, maybe if you like BTS, you can stick Jungkook's picture next to the camera or something. So you keep looking, imagine you're talking to Jungkook. Yeah, that could work, okay? Ethan, I hope that answers. If it's about expressiveness, I recognize that the first time you try to be more expressive, especially if you're not really expressive, it's going to be difficult, right? But keep working at it until it becomes natural. You don't expect to do that in a week, but by a year, there's a lot you can do. And you don't just practice in your club, you practice in everyday life. Because what you're learning in here, you're supposed to apply for results in life. Nobody cares if you won all the plastic trophies from, Gavel Club, but in real life, you're mean and you hurt people with your words. What's the point? Isn't that why we learn how to evaluate for? So we can motivate people kindly? Okay? Practice here, practice in real life as well. Okay, do we have more questions? Any more? Anyone? I know it's past the meeting time. I'm sorry I took up your table topics time. But yeah, if you have any more questions, how about this? What I'll do is you can send me your questions here to kin@coachkinang.com. I cannot promise you I will reply you immediately because I try to disconnect from email as much as I can. But within 48 hours, I will respond to your questions. All right. So thank you so much for the time. I hope you all got something valuable from this. And if I can leave you with one last message or a story. I tell this story all the time. Some of you might have heard it before, but I'm going to tell it again. So this is a story about a clay Buddha that sits in a temple in Thailand. Have I told this story before? Or has anyone heard this story before? Oh, fantastic. Okay. So there's a clay Buddha that sits, well, actually not in temple. This clay Buddha was sitting in somewhere in Bangkok City, right? And as they were expanding the city, they had to move this clay Buddha to make way for a new building. And so the contractor came down. Well, it's a Buddha. You don't destroy Buddhas, right? So they chained up this gold Buddha statue. It's about 6 meters tall, 2 meters by 3 meters wide and deep. And they chained it up and they tried to move it. And as they moved it, the crane lifted the Buddha, started to move it, when suddenly, the Buddha dropped. It crashed on the ground, and the contractor was like, ah! He was a religious person. He ran over and he went to examine the damage. He saw a huge crack on the Buddha. He took a flashlight, examined the damage. When he saw some reflection coming back into his eye, he thought, that's strange. And he thought about why the chain broke. The Buddha seemed heavier than it looked. And so upon further discovery, they peeled off the plaster to find that this gold Buddha was a 2 meter by 3 meter by 6 meter solid gold Buddha, hidden under all that clay. Today, this Buddha sits in the temple of the Golden Buddha in Bangkok, right? And the story is there. But why am I telling you this story? Well, you see, the history of this story is that this Golden Buddha was in a temple near the border of Myanmar. And Burmese soldiers were going to invade this temple. And the monks knew they couldn't move the Buddha. And when the invaders came, they would take it away. So they covered up this Buddha with clay, right? To hide its true value. And then when the Burmese soldiers came, they killed every single monk in the temple. And so that secret stayed hidden for hundreds of years until that accident which revealed that Buddha. But why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this story because somewhere, sometime, somehow in your life, someone might have started to cover you up with clay. Words like, you're stupid, you're not good enough, I don't know what you're talking about, you're lousy, you're a loser. Right? For mine, it was, oh, you're just like a brother to me. Right? I started covering myself up with clay because I believed those words. Have you started to believe those words? Have you covered yourself up with clay? And so I tell you this story because I recognize that inside each and every one of you is solid gold. You've got so much potential. You've got brilliant ideas. You've got loving hearts. And you're probably going to create the future. I know you are. I'm already 40 years old. I've done half my life. You've got more than 3/4 to go. And I Can't wait to see what you can bring to this world. Trust yourself. Find that gold in you. Get on stage and shine. Okay? Good luck for your contests. Thank you, everybody. If you do have more questions, feel free to send it to me, ken at coachkenang.com. And I'll see you soon. Back to you, Caleb. Oh, sorry. Presiding officer is Michelle, right? Should I pass it back to Michelle?
You can
Okay.
pass that back to me. Either way is fine. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ig. Thank you so much, Kin, for sharing that incredible workshop with us. And I just feel like I heard 10 contest speeches from you, and I gained so much wisdom and insight. And I know all of us gained lots of wisdom and insight. And this is going to really be a great help as we prepare for our intro club speech competition, which is going to be on December 4th. So 2 weeks from now, make sure you start getting your speeches and use Kin's tips. And I would like to now present to you a certificate of appreciation. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us this workshop, and we really are very, very thankful. So thank you so much, Kin, for coming and giving us this workshop. And I will send this to you as well. So thank you. Let's give Mr. Ig another round of applause. Thank you so much. So now it's currently 7:12 p.m. and I think it's probably 10:17 in Singapore, but I just have a few final announcements. So first off, for the actual North American contest, there are going to be ways you can volunteer for the actual contest and fill some roles in the contest. That's going to be on Sunday, December 15th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe. So if you would like to sign up, there will be a sign-up sheet for the roles in the upcoming agenda email. So this is a great experience, great way to learn some contest leadership skills. And if you are available, definitely do not pass this opportunity up. Then I would also like to announce, remember, next week is our Thanksgiving meeting, and we're going to have a talent show. So remember, if you play an instrument, please bring your instrument or bring your talent and share with us your talent, your instrument, because this is a great way we want to build community, and of course, it's a great way to showcase your talents and all that you can do, as well as your speaking. So I would like to share really quickly this Google Form sign-up sheet. There's only been one person who has signed up, and actually I'm guilty of not signing up yet. But if you would like to perform, or if you can't perform because you can't be there on the 27th, please just send us a video of a past performance, or you can record a video this week and send it to us. And I'm gonna just put this sign-up sheet real quick in the chat. So please sign up, and I just want a quick show of hands. Who here is planning to perform next week? Just so I can kind of know, because if we have enough people, we won't need to have a table topic session to cover the rest of the time. So we can just raise our virtual hand just to make it easier. So me, Kara, Rachel, and anyone else who would like to perform next week. Again, it's really going to be of all different levels. So if you think, just like Kin said, you are all solid gold, and it doesn't matter what level you are, what instrument, what kind of talent. We just want you to share your talents, and it's going to be a fun time for everyone. So Michelle, if you would like to play, just go ahead. Go ahead. So currently it's going to be, yes, and William, Advisor Sunny, I'm not sure if you're saying that for William. Oh, I think, yeah, William will perform. So I think we have enough time for a few performances. And remember, if you still want to perform, please sign up, because I know Ethan, Claire, I know you also play instruments, so we would love to have you share your talents. So we'll have the sign-up sheet in the agenda email. And let me see if I'm missing anything. I think we've basically covered it all. Does anyone currently have any questions, comments, or feedback about the meeting tonight? Anything you want to share? Anything? All right, if not, at 7:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you everyone for coming to the workshop and for coming to the meeting. Thank you so much, Kin, for your workshop. And we will see everyone back here next week for the recital. So thank you everyone. Have a great rest of your week and see you next week. Bye everyone. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Hi, everyone.
Everyone.